Okay, the recording is started. Yeah, so back up there, sorry, just a little bit. So how do you understand variables at this point?
Well, should I repeat what I said, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Sorry, I wasn't recording at the time.
Okay. Well, for me, variables are like containers or boxes where I can put numbers, any sorts of values, actually, like numbers, strings, Boolean values like true or false. I can even store object of the DOM. So I can still, I can recall them back when I'm using it in the code, respecting the dry principle, like don't repeat yourself. So instead of writing a whole snippet of code, I'll store that snippet into a variables and then just call back the variables, and that's it.
Yeah.
And also they have the same kind of function, also functions actually. They can even be used like containers, but as I understand, they contain mechanism that you can use later in the code, as far as I know, but that's what I understood.
Yeah. Well, it is pretty cool. But JavaScript is different from other languages like, say, PHP. So technically in JavaScript, everything is an object. So like when you go to, so let's say, for example, you make a string and then you want to do something like pull out an individual character of the string, or you want to make things uppercase or make all things lowercase, or you want to find a certain string within a string. There's functions that are accessible that you use your dot notation to access, right? So I don't know if that makes sense, but so that's also so basically everything is an object. That might not make much sense to you at this point in learning, but what's really cool as well is your variables can also contain collections of variables,
like arrays, right?
And those are arrays. Yeah,
those are arrays.
And so when we're doing things like, we'll make a to-do app today. When you're doing these things, we're gonna utilize arrays, and for our persistent storage, we're just going to use local storage, but we're going to implement JSON, which is JavaScript Object Notation, which is basically, it's like a string, but JavaScript can go and decode it so that it now becomes an object. Or think of like an array, but with key value pairs. So like different languages do things a little bit differently. Like I'll give you an example.
Okay.
PHP, which you're going to learn, is there's arrays, key value pair arrays, and then there's objects, right? But in JavaScript, it's like you have an array, which will just be a single item that you can act upon. And then, but then when you want to do like key value pairs, then it becomes, it's basically done as an object, right? So you'll kind of see how that works. So when we build the to-do application, what we'll do is we'll start out by just working with a single array, okay, to add to our to-do list, to remove things from our to-do list, and we'll probably go with like we'll end up using two methods, I suppose, within that for the array, like two array methods. You call anything that's a function within an object is called a method. So that might not make much sense right now, but
no, it does.
A method is a function, but it's function scoped to a specific variable or object, right? So,
Perfect.
So the two that we'll use are going to be like array.push, which is going to push it onto the end of an array. Okay. And then we'll use
add an element.
Exactly. And then we'll use array.filter to basically create a new array, but without
inside.
Yeah, pardon?
Is it you're going to create an array inside of an array?
That's right. Yeah,
like a subarray.
No, we'll use the filter. What filter does is it allows us to go through an array and then decide what elements we want to keep in the array or what elements we want to remove from the array. Okay. And we could get like I won't get too complicated with this, because I mean we could also edit a particular entry or variable within this array, but in this case what we'll do is we'll just basically set it up so we can delete it, and create a new one instead of editing it. Because it's a very simple application, right? We don't need to reference by an ID like you would say if you were working with a record in the database. So we'll keep that simple. And what I want to do with this, the goal of this is, I'm going to, with the information that you have right now, I want you to go ahead and try to create it, you know, from the most basic steps. Like, we're looking at the web page. Okay, well, what do we need? So for example, we need something to be able to enter in what our to-do item is. Then we're probably going to need a button to, you know, submit the to-do, right? So that might be like, you know, you need to submit the to-do. So you need to take the information out of that input box,
Yeah,
in
and
that form. You need to store it within a variable, probably clear what's in that input box, and then put it down in a list. Maybe that's
okay.
below the input box. So
Okay.
you want to break it down into as simple steps as possible. Like, maybe, you know, don't think of the end result quite yet. You know, I mean, we have in our mind what we want. It's a to-do list app, so we want to be able to potentially check things off, things like that, right? And
Yeah.
actually, I don't even know if you want to call this a to-do. It'll just be like basically a list and then editing things in this list, right? So
Okay.
so why don't you do you have your editor there set up?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm opening it out. Wait a second. Create a new
And then
file.
I'll set it up so that you can share your screen. I'll make you co-host. There you go. Now you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Okay, let me see. I create a new folder. And I can store things there.
What code editor are you using?
VS Code.
Oh, good. Okay. The nice thing about VS Code is Emmet is already included, so we can use like some short keys, or you can make writing HTML a lot faster. Like, you may have
Yeah.
noticed that if you start with an empty document, an empty HTML document, and you put the exclamation mark and then push tab, it automatically populates the very basic structure of your HTML document.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll show
Okay.
you these quick keys.
So I'll call the first, or should I share my screen?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
for
you
sure.
can see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I only share the VS Code, right? The editor.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you want to do it on the full screen, then, because you're going to want to open up the live server on VS Code and show what you're doing in the browser.
Yeah, I can do that. Okay, so I'm gonna share the whole screen. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So I guess now you can see my screen. Can you?
I can see it now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I was creating this index HTML, and inside of that, I'm gonna create also script, right?
Yeah.
JS.
Script. Don't worry about the script.js yet. Just we'll just use
Okay, we're gonna
HTML.
do it inline or internal,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, do it
Okay,
in the
that's
script.
it.
Okay. So if you want to
Let me close.
if you want to just maximize the view of your HTML document first.
Yeah. Let me see.
Okay. Like of the code editor.
Is that fine?
Just maximize it so it takes up the whole screen.
Okay. I'm going live now with this live server.
Okay.
Okay. So if I put
no. So this is what I want you to do. Get rid of everything that's on there. Okay. Put the exclamation mark in, and then push tab.
Oh, wow! I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's really cool. Yeah. So let's put so everything loads at the end. Let's put our script tag at the bottom.
Okay. Wait a second. Something. Okay.
Actually, here, one other thing. Okay, just get rid of the script. Get rid of what you just wrote. Okay. Now just type in script, and then push tab. Okay, and then push push enter. So this is Emmet, the functionality of Emmet. So if we want to expand, we can use abbreviations to expand those items. So,
Nice.
okay, now up in your body, just above the script tag, give us some space between the body and where the script tag begins. Okay.
Let me space it out.
No, not between head and body. No, head and body, nothing exists there. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the other thing we want to do is we want to pull in Bootstrap. So just to make things look a little pretty as we go here. So if you go to the Bootstrap, getbootstrap.com. Yeah, you probably visited that before. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, document. No, hold on. This should be on the main page. Go down.
Download.
We're just gonna pull in the CDN. So go down, scroll down. There you go. So you can. So the style sheet one, the CSS only. Yeah, we'll just use the CSS only one.
Okay.
Okay, we don't need to pull in the JavaScript. We don't need to pull in because we're gonna do this. We won't use jQuery or anything. So copy that, yeah, put that in just below title.
Okay.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so first thing we want to do is let's create a container with a class of container.
Okay, so div, right?
So you don't have to write out div. Actually, okay, so this is another trick with Emmet that you can do. Put dot container.
And no, always tab, right?
Yeah, and tab.
Wow.
It speeds up development so much faster. So,
yeah, I didn't know about that.
For sure. And you could do that with like an ID tag. So instead of ID, you put like a hash symbol, right?
Yeah.
We used to call it the pound sign back in my day.
The pound sign?
No, yeah, we used to call it pound sign. Yeah. Anyways, the hash symbol. So now we have container there. That's great. Now put like I want you to put a heading tag in there and just put my list app.
Sorry, can you repeat again?
Put a heading tag in there with my list. Okay, perfect. Then
should go live now.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? Let's do one other thing just to make this look a little bit prettier. Type in dot card, and then so dot card. Don't push tab yet. Then dot mt-5. MT, M as in Mike. MT, not empty, but M, the letter M, and the letter T.
Okay.
Yeah. So these are Bootstrap classes, right? So M, so letter M, letter T, -5. Okay, and then go to the end of that string, yeah, and then push tab. Yeah. Okay.
Doesn't
do this.
Everything?
Close. Just go back and just go backspace till you close the 5. No. Go to the end of the string. Okay. Go backspace to 5. Okay. Then put 5 again, and then push tab.
Okay.
There you go. Okay. Then enter, and then you're gonna do. We need a card-body class container. So .card-body. No, .card- card-body. Yeah.
Tab.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Now put your H1 tag in there.
Oh man, where are those?
Oh.
I should write it again.
Just type it again,
Yeah. So let me see. If I use the dot and then H1 and tab.
No. Then it creates a div with a class of H1. But if you type H1 and push tab, then you can do that.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. And actually, you know what? Go back again. Go back again. We'll get rid of those tags. Okay. Go H1 dot text -center. Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
Now enter in your text, and it's going to make things look
There you
pretty.
go.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Now after H1, I want you to put an HR tag, so a horizontal rule.
Okay.
Okay. And that one doesn't have a closing tag to it. It's just HR. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Remember that. Okay.
Okay. Good. And now what we need is probably an input element, right?
Okay.
So you need, let's take a step back here. Again, what we're going to need is a way to basically to write down the to-do and then to add it to our list. So why don't we start by mocking up the page first, meaning let's create a structure for it. So what are we going to need for this?
If you want to create a structure for the page.
Yeah, like let's create a basic structure for how the page is going to look at the end, and then we'll hook up the JavaScript and everything to
So, well, we need an input.
Yeah.
Where I can write the things I have to do, and next to it, I need a button like that. It says submit or something like that. So, and using this button, I want the text that I wrote in the input to go down and create a list below this input.
Yeah, perfect.
And I would like to add also close to the input, so to the list I made, a radio box or a checkbox. That's it, a checkbox that I can click when I get that thing. Okay. I don't know if I was clear enough. Forgive my English.
That's okay. Instead of a checkbox, what we'll do next to it is just a button that allows us to delete. That allows us to delete the item.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. That's the idea anyway I had.
So if you remember using Bootstrap, because I know you took a little course there that involved Bootstrap, you'll have to create a form group, right? And then because we want it to look pretty, we want it, the input to take up this portion of the page, and then the button to take up a smaller portion of the page, right?
Okay.
So you can do that using Bootstrap classes like form dash group, and maybe like that would be the class, and then you can add to that same container, that same div, a row class, and then we can break it down into probably 2 columns, maybe one that takes up 10/12ths, and then or what would that be? 10/12ths would be 5/6, and then one that takes up a 1/6, right? So So do you remember the classes for forms for Bootstrap?
Well, I used to copy and paste it from Bootstrap, but
well, let's do this. Let's do this. I'll tell you what it is. So it's going to be .form dash group.
Okay.
Okay, and then within that same line, go hit Control Z.
Control Z.
Yeah. Control Z again. No, Control Z.
Okay, Z. Okay, sorry.
And hit it again. Okay, now go .row. Perfect. Okay, tab. Okay, now on the new line, we'll do a little container within there that has maybe the column width of 10/12, right? So do you remember how to do column widths? We can go .col.
What call?
Dash 10. And then tab, yeah. And because I mean, if we were going to make this like, we're not making something that's going to be mobile responsive per se. So I'm not worried about adding things like small, medium, extra small, extra large, large. So basically, this is how it's going to look on any screen. It's just the individual elements will look wider. So, okay, so perfect. Okay, so now what you want to do in there is put an input tag in there, and the class that goes with the inputs is going to be .form dash control. Yeah. But you need to put input at the beginning. So hit Control Z. Hit Control Z. Yeah. And
so
then
it's
Control
input.
Z again. Okay. So input dot form dash control. Okay. Right on. Okay. Good. Now, because this, so in order to grab the value that's in this input, what are we going to have to do?
We need to add a button here, right?
We need to add a button, yeah. But when we go to the JavaScript itself, we need a way to
okay.
reference it.
We need the dot notation, right? So I'm going to write.
No. If you go back up to input, we need a way to reference that specific input. We probably
I can
want
put an
something
ID,
that,
right?
Exactly, because there's only going to be one of these.
Okay, so you can call it input to do.
Sure. To make it simple, you don't. I mean, you can label things as you want, but typically on IDs, and I notice this with a lot of my colleagues too, is I will break things up with a dash instead of doing the camel case. Camel case usually I'll do for things like JavaScript for declaring a variable. You know, an underscore often if I'm sending through post or get data to the back end, I'll do it with an underscore. So, but anyways, yeah, I would do an ID with a dash, kind of like you see with class there.
Okay, so I'm gonna write to do. That's it, or input.
Sure, whatever.
Input to do.
Yeah.
You
get rid of the dash between to and do. There you go. Okay, perfect. There we go. So now we're going to need to, so with that extra space that exists on the right-hand side of the input, we need to put a button in there. How do you think we go about doing that?
Let me see. Okay. Input. Okay, button, right?
Yeah.
Dot. Button.
If you go do this, go button dot btn, but without we don't want the button to be a class and a div. We want it to be an actual button element.
So I should add call, right?
That's right.
Call to.
Yeah, we should.
So call to in this case, because they should add up to 12, right?
That's right. Yeah, if we want to do the full width.
Let me see if it works.
Okay.
I should use input, right?
No, you could use input and then type could be button or submit. But in this case, just use the button tag. So it's an actual tag name that you can use. So get rid of the dot before button. Okay. And then after dot button, put dot button dash primary. That's going to give us a blue button.
Yeah, so button dash.
No. Okay. Yeah. But then we also need to have the dot button as well. So put a dot btn.
Before or after, it's the same.
It's the same. Perfect. Okay. And you probably have to delete the 2 and then add the 2 again and push tab. Okay. So what happened there?
It added the button, but it's below the input div.
First thing, let's just put between our button tags, let's put add in there just so we have some text to make it look full size. Okay.
Okay, there you go.
Right. So what do you think happened here with this?
I should move it here, right?
Yeah. So how would you do that?
Let me think a second. If I use the p tag.
No, we don't. That's not quite what we want to do. Take a look at the structure that's up there already. You have, because basically we're creating row containers, right, that take up a position. So you might notice, where is your column -2 in relation to your column -10?
It's below.
Yeah. So one of them. So basically, the column 2 is the child of column 10. But should it be the child?
No.
No.
So I should put it down here, right?
Okay. Let's see what happens there.
Okay, it works.
It looks better. It looks better for sure.
Yeah,
there's something else that we should probably do instead of doing that. It might look the same, but why don't we actually, instead of column 2, why don't we actually make a container for the button?
Okay, and we call it column 2. Okay. Yeah. So if I were just write call to tab, okay, it works.
Perfect. Yeah.
Let me put it there. Okay. Oh, what happened? Oh, because it has two margin, right?
Well, you have a column 2 within a column 2.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Perfect. Here's one other thing you can do. Another class you can add to that is button dash block. So btn dash block. Okay, that didn't really help us that much. Let's make our input a little bit smaller. So instead of being 10, let's give that, you know, a 9 instead, and we'll see if that improves the look. And then we need to do 3 here. Yeah.
Okay, it's better now.
That's good. And I mean, on a larger screen, it would work just fine. But we're probably at one of the smallest screen sizes you would use, anyways. So, okay, perfect. Now we also need a way to do something with this. With the when we click the button, we're going to want a way to reference that, right?
Mm-hmm. So
how
an ID too. An ID.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I can use button add.
Awesome. Okay.
Does that work?
That's great. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So we have the basic structure of this for adding our to-dos. Now we need to create a list below our form. So how would we create a list below our form?
Let me see. I should use the UL, right?
Okay.
And then inside of this UL, I'm going to create the list elements, right?
Yeah.
But should I write something in there?
Yeah. Let's write item 1.
Okay.
Okay. Now one other thing I'm going to show you with your mouse where no, go back up. Okay. With that where it is right now, push down Shift Alt and then the down key, the down arrow.
Shift hold?
Shift Alt down.
Okay. Oh wow.
And again. Okay. So now we can do things like put, you know, item 2, 3, 4, 5 instead,
yeah.
Right? So.
Okay.
Okay.
So Alt Shift down. There you go. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
okay.
It's these little shortcuts for the keyboards that really help to improve. And, you know, especially as you get more comfortable programming, they're going to become second nature, and you're going to want to speed up your development process. So these are ways that we do it, right? So that works. So now there's one issue. Like I'm looking at this ordered list, and where does it fit in terms of the container for the form?
Where does it fit?
Like where is it in relation to our form and our form containers?
It's floating to the left, right?
Yeah, look
and
at
it's
your actual.
Just below. It's just below the input.
Yeah, look at your actual code, code screen.
Is inside the form group row.
Yeah, and semantically, that's probably not what we want to happen.
Okay.
I mean, form group just, you know, it adds some nice margins and padding and all of that, but Control X. Okay, perfect.
So I should add it here, right?
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, good. And you can actually see instead of being formatted to the left now, we've got a little bit more margin on the left, which is natural with the UL. So these are like the built-in styles with HTML that whatever browser you're using has already given it. So, okay, perfect. So, I mean, this is where we're going to store our items.
Should I put an ID to the UL list?
Probably, yeah. Because what are we going to have to do with the items that we insert? They would be called like in programming. We would sure, yeah, that works. We would call it appending, right? We need to append items.
Yeah.
To this list. Now we're not going to exactly append items per se, because what we're probably going to do is create in the JavaScript side. We're going to create the list all over again every time we add something. But at any rate, now we need to go to script. So what would you do? What's our next step in here, do you think?
Well, first of all, I would get the value that is written here, right?
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Is that the first thing should I do?
Yeah, I think so. That makes sense to me.
Okay, so I would do like that.
Values.
Let me try. Okay. Document dot get element by ID, and the ID we used was input to do, input to do, and then I'd get the value. Is that right?
Okay, well let's try it. I mean, you're trying to reference.
But no,
the
okay. Wait a second. Okay, let me see if I do something else. I want something to happen when I click this button. I want to take the value of this.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
So
that's
the
an
starting,
action. That's
okay,
an
the
action we
starting
want to take
point,
on it.
the starting point is add, is this button, right?
Okay, perfect. First things first, I want to do something else. I want you to open up your console on
Okay.
your actual browser tab. So just click on the browser tab and push F12.
Okay, Shift 12.
F12.
Okay. Oh, what happened?
Not Shift F12. Make sure you've clicked on your browser, and then.
Oh, wait a second. Wait a second.
F12.
Wait. Let's go. Okay. There you go. Console.
Perfect. And then we're in the console. Okay,
let's
awesome.
get rid of that.
Uh-oh. So now you clicked on elements. So that's a good way to inspect things. Like maybe you're looking at a website and you want to find out how they style the particular element, then you would use elements, but
yeah,
that's okay. So you're in the console. We have an empty console there. That way. So yeah, we need to take some kind of an action, like you said, right? When we want to do something when the add button is clicked. So where do we go from here?
Should I write in the console?
No. The console is just gonna if we've made any errors, the console is gonna tell us what our errors are.
Well, I want something to happen when I click this button. So I would first reference, I don't know if that's the right term, but I would refer to the button. Okay, so and was button add. Okay.
Okay.
Then on click, right?
That's one way. I'm gonna get you to use a different one. I'll get you to use add event listener.
Okay, add event listener. Okay. Yeah. Then click.
Perfect. Great so far.
Yeah. And then comma function.
Yeah. So this is a callback, right?
Yeah.
This is what they call a callback. So we're going to do something with the result
or anonymous. Is it? That's an anonymous function, right? That's the right name.
No, I mean no, not exactly. It's a callback function. So
okay,
so in this case, we could use kind of a I guess. So you could just use function, or you could create a function outside,
and then call it back here,
and then use that in place of your function.
Okay.
Tag, right?
So now inside of that, when I click the button, add this blue button here, I want to take the value of this input, right?
So when I talked about, like earlier, we were talking about doing things incrementally. I use my console a lot to do things. And so for example, like let's say, now this might not make much sense to you, but at this stage in learning, but I use Webpack to compile all of my JavaScript, meaning it compiles from modern JavaScript to JavaScript that most browsers understand. Yeah, because I try to use the latest that's out there, because the more powerful the functions, the less work I have to do.
ECMA 6,
it depends on what
7.
level, what version of the ECMA you're using. So I think we're like ECMA version 7 or something now, but at any rate, I might be wrong on that. But at any rate, we want to make sure that this button is now hooked up. So we want to test that click event. So how can we test that click event? If we do things
When I click, I
incrementally
should
like this,
console.log something, right?
sure, yeah.
Like clicked.
Great.
So when I clicked here.
Okay, so we know that's hooked up. Now if you do it this way, maybe you're hooking up a new script that was just compiled. You want to make sure that you properly referenced it. Then what you want to I might do something like when the script is loaded, just console log, hey, I'm loaded, I'm here, whatever, and then I'll delete it afterwards,
Okay.
right? But it'll appear in the console, so
Okay.
that's good. Okay, good. So we know that that's hooked up. Now, what do you think we need to do from here?
So I was thinking about getting the value of this input,
Okay.
right?
Perfect.
And the same way, so document get element by ID, and then the ID was input dash to do, and then I could get the value or the inner HTML. What was that? Value, right?
Yeah, we want the value of the input. Exactly.
Okay.
That'll reference what you've written in the box.
I could console.log this, so to see whether it works. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a great idea. It's making sure that that'll help us to make sure we're properly referencing it. We haven't.
So when I write here, hey, let me see, and I click add, okay, it console.log, hey.
Perfect. Good.
Okay, fine, works.
Good stuff.
And then it's white. Perfect.
Great, good. So we know that we can grab the value. So that's awesome. Now we need a way to store this value.
Variable.
Yeah, but first of all, I mean, you have some code there. It's written out. It's kind of long with the document .get element by ID .value. Let's use some other tools in here. So let's turn that into a variable that we can easily access to reference it. We don't need to do it outside of our
inside
our event listener. We can do it inside. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll call it var. How do I call it?
Let's use some more modern syntax. Instead of var, let's use let.
Okay.
Yeah.
And instead of this variable, I should put this portion, right?
Yeah.
No.
So
this. Okay. Okay.
We need to basically so we're not constantly typing out document.get element ID. We're only typing it out once. And then we can reference it with a much shorter variable. So you might call this particular item. Yeah.
Always input text.
Or you can just call it to do or item.
Okay.
Okay. Perfect. So now what I would do is get rid of where it says .value. Okay, perfect. Okay, now you know what actually is kind of cool in this situation? Console log item to do. Okay. And then we'll run that. Okay, so this gives us the actual HTML element. Instead of .log, go .dir. This is kind of demonstrating that everything is an object in JavaScript. Because you're going to see like, well, how is it that we get value or things like that? Okay, perfect. Now where the arrow is, yeah, click down. Now you can see all of these properties, and if you go further down, you'll be able to see console. Yeah, you'll be able to see some methods that we can use on this as well, right? We can see the class names. We can see how wide it is. We can see its relation in terms of the top, left, right, you name it. But if you go down to where V is in Victor, elemental P, QRSTV, value. Yeah. So that's the property it's pulling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's other things in there too, like, type, it says type text. You might notice if you scroll up to where the actual input is in your HTML, you'll see that the type that's in there is text. With JavaScript, we can change all of that stuff. I mean, we can change the width, we can change the height, we can remove classes, add classes to this particular element. And this is a great starting point for finding out how to do that, right? Because with these properties and methods, you can see what's available to you to use. So at any rate, this is something that I rely on a lot when I do some more front-end heavy.
So you understand all the methods and the properties you can use.
You can see
when
manipulating
something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Perfect.
Just wait just a second. Come. Okay, I'm here.
Okay, awesome. Okay, great. So that's good. So that's how you can see, if you ever make a mistake, you're wondering what's going on, maybe it's a typo, like an error you made in your syntax, something like that, you can see what it is. Or you can also see other things like what other methods are available. So we have an add event listener click, but it'll list out all of the add event listener things, all the event types that we have access to naturally on the object.
And that's it. Let me see.
So like, see where it says on? Yeah.
On animation end, on animation iteration, on animation start, okay. On change and close, on copy.
Essentially, we're using the on click, but instead, because we're using it within the add event listener method, we reference it with click. And so often these will work with just cut out where it says on and then use the rest. Right?
Okay.
So, okay, awesome. So let's get rid of the console.dir. Okay, great. So now what we need to do is we need a place to basically store these to-dos. So are you familiar with how arrays work? Do you want me to?
Like familiar?
Do you want me to show you?
See.
So, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll I'll do a screen share. How does that sound? Okay. And we'll show you the methods that we're going to institute basically. So.
Should I stop share mine? Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, so you should see my screen now, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, just gonna move that off to my second screen. Okay, so I'm just gonna use the console to kind of play around with it, right? So I want to create an array. So we'll say let r equals, this will be an empty array, right? Okay, so within array, there's going to be certain methods or certain things that we can access because it is an object through methods, things like that. So I mean, I could say array.length, and we see the length is 0. Do you know what length is in reference to an array?
Yeah, it gives the number of elements inside the array, right?
Yeah, perfect. So if we want to add something to an array, what method would you use to add something to an array?
Push.
Perfect.
So we write r dot push, and then parentheses first to do.
Perfect. Now, if we want to display that, we can see that there, or
square bracket. Okay, sorry.
Now, if I want to do array.length, we can do that as well, right? So
yeah.
And arrays get really cool because you can put anything in an array. Like you can put anything in a variable. I could put objects within arrays, right? I can make it a mix. I could put arrays within arrays. I could put, yeah, buddy. Okay. Thanks, sweetie. Okay. Thank you, honey. Okay. So yeah, so all sorts of things like objects you can put in there, you name it. And often when you're working on more complicated applications, like things that, maybe you're going to make an AJAX call to an API that's going to spit out a bunch of data related to users or invoices or something, right? you're going to find that you're going to be putting basically objects within these arrays, and then these objects act as the key value pairs. Does that make sense, the way I've explained that so far? Do you want me to give you an example of how that might work? So let's create a to-do as an object. We won't do this with our actual application, but it'll give you an idea as to kind of the power of it. So I'm going to call this one, we'll say to-do one. And this is going to be an object with a key value pair. So in here, I might say, okay, well, this to-do one has an ID of 1. And it has, so this is a property I'm adding to an object here. And let's say we want to give it a name as well, right? So this will be, this is to-do number 1. And let's say just we want to say, you know, assigned 2. So maybe we're going to assign this one to Tyson. Okay. So we have this object. Now what we can do is we can, how would we put this to-do item, this object, in the array again?
Okay, r.push parenthesis to-do 1.
Perfect. So now if we want to display the array, I would just go array, right? And you can see that's where our object is. And if I click on it, I could pull up more information for that object. So that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So now how objects are organized by indexes, right? All objects have an index, right? That's how how JavaScript references the position within an array.
Yeah, and they're zero-based.
Exactly. Yeah. So if I wanted to pull out just my to-do, like what if I wanted to pull out the object or display that, what would I do?
I would use r square brackets and 1.
Yeah, perfect. That's in there. Now here's something else that's really cool. Let's say I want to pull out just the name. What do you think I would do in this case?
So r square brackets 1 dot notation dot name. Yeah,
perfect. So you understand all that. That's great. That's half the battle. So it's really good. Yeah, I see. Okay, go watch your show, sweetie. Go watch your show. So that gives you an idea, right? So when we put this in a for loop or for each loop, then we're going to be able to. We could store everything as an object. We don't really want to do that here for simplicity's sake, but we could do that, and then we could pull out individual items within the array and then the object that it references. So so that's good. Yeah. So that all makes sense then. Okay, so that's great. So if that makes sense, we'll just do it as basically we'll just put a to-do in the array. We'll just keep pushing onto it. So so let me cancel the screen share. Okay.
Okay, should go with mine now.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Let me connect to another network. Wait a second.
Sure.
Okay. No. Let's wait. Okay. Maybe I'll do it later. Okay. So I share my screen now.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. So can you see my screen?
Yeah, you bet. You bet.
Okay.
So this array, where do we, in reference to our script, where do we want to store the basic array, the empty array?
In reference to a script. Here.
Okay.
Right. Outside of the event listener.
Yeah.
So I use let, and I call it to do. Okay, with the camel.
You don't have to do camel in here if it's it depends. It depends what you're most comfortable reading and how you do things, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
To do.
So to do is so short. I don't do camel. But again, it's whatever you want to do. Whatever's easier for you to read.
Okay, so and inside of this array, I should leave it empty.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll initialize it exactly like that. Perfect. Okay, so the to-do array is initialized. Now somebody clicks on that. What do we want to do with that to-do array?
we want to push items in it.
Okay. So how would you do that?
So I already selected the value.
You didn't select the value, you selected the element.
Okay.
But you have
there you
access
go.
to the value. Yeah. You can do it that way for sure.
Or I can do it even differently.
Yeah.
I could wait a second, let me think.
Okay, I'm going to show you why you're going to want to do it. Yeah, I'm going to show you why you're going to want to just reference the element, because we're going to want to use that item to do again, right? To do something else to the input after we've added our item. Okay, good.
That should work, right?
So how are we going to test to make sure that works?
Let me see. If I write hello here and then add, and then I call the array
we don't
to R, I can see the element that I pushed. Hello.
Perfect. Now to speed up your time here, what's something else we can do after we push the item to the array? What can we automatically do within the function that we've just called?
Console.log.
Perfect. Yeah.
Can I put it here, console.log, and all of this, and I put inside of console?
I wouldn't. I would put your console.log at the very end. Because then it'll be easier to just delete that one line, right? Once we've developed the application. Yeah.
Okay. Hi. There you go.
There you go. And now try doing another one. Put something else in that input box. Don't save and refresh. Just let's put several items in that array and see what happens. See if we can add several items. Okay, how are you?
There you go.
Yeah. It's kind of irritating though, isn't it, to have to constantly delete what's in that box?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. What could we do instead of having to go in there and delete it all the time?
When I click add, after it added, you push it through, you push it into the to-do R. I should, let me see. Clear, I should clear this input.
Yeah,
How do I do it?
Yeah, don't delete your console log. I leave the console log in there kind of till the end. That's what I usually do, because I'm going to use it again. Probably in terms of testing. Maybe not on an application this small, but it's a good habit, in my opinion, to get into. So, so how can we clear the value of the item to do?
Okay, I could set to the inner HTML or the text content of the input. Right, I could delete it. I don't know, bro.
Okay. we could reset it. That's one option. I wouldn't do the inner HTML though, because inputs, they behave a little differently than other HTML elements. So
let me see if I get also the item to do value. No, not value, but text content. Let's see.
Nope.
Right? No.
No. You were on the right track. No worries. You were on the right track originally. So value, and we just need to put empty content in there, right?
Okay.
So
I should set it to like this.
You could do that, yeah.
So if I write something, okay, let's write pasta. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and I add something else in there.
Okay, it works.
It works awesome. Okay, good.
Perfect.
Good stuff. Okay. So now we know everything's going into our array, which is great. What do we need to do now, do you think?
Well, I should use a for loop. Anyway, a loop that loops through this array and shows the items listed here.
Yeah. Great.
Right?
Yeah, that's great.
So should I use for?
You can do 4, yeah, but we're dealing with an array here, which means we have access to another function, a built-in function, right? Like a method that's part of the array object.
Yeah, let me see. Let me see if I can understand which it is.
This might be the long way to look things up, but
Okay.
let's see if it's in there.
Filter.
No.
Concat. Constructor. Within entries every.
No.
No.
There's
Filter find index flat mark for each. Is that?
For each, beautiful. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so you could view the arguments that go in there, but essentially, yeah. But essentially, what you're going to do. So let's write this out. So we take to do R, and what do we add to that?
R dot for each, right?
Okay. And then yeah, and then put we'll just put let's see here, we'll just put item, just type in item. Okay, we're going to use like arrow functions here, so you don't need the apostrophe.
Okay.
Use the equal sign and then the right chevron, whatever they call that, but you have to do that after where it says item.
What is this? Can you repeat again?
Sure.
What is this?
We have item. So this is going to be perfect. And then let's put some curly brackets in there. Perfect. Okay. And now push enter when you're between the curly brackets. Push enter. This is basically
between the curly.
Yeah.
Okay,
This is very similar to how we've written this. It's a callback function, right? Just like we wrote up there for add event listeners. In fact, you could do this in add event listener instead of the other one. And these they function a little bit differently from callbacks. And I think it has a lot to do with what can be accessed in terms of scope outside of it. So, but that's not here or there for right now. But to do array dot for each. Okay, so that's good. What should we do in here?
Okay, please. You have to repeat what this sign means. I didn't get it. It's a function.
Yeah, we call them arrow functions. Okay, and
arrow
so
function.
instead of writing function brackets or functions
like this.
Yeah, instead of writing it like that, it's basically doing something very similar. Okay.
Item, and I always should use item or any name.
It depends. It depends what's being passed through.
Okay, I got it. I got it, bro. I got it. Sorry.
No worries.
So this sign, this arrow sign, is going to. It's used like this function. Yeah. Parenthesis. Okay.
Yeah, it's similar. It's similar. It's there's some advantages using this, but I mean, as you advance into your JavaScript skills, you'll see what those are. In fact, sometimes I end up mixing my syntax sometimes, and I'll be like, well, why can't I do this or that? And then I'll change it to an arrow function, and then I have access to more scope or something, right? So
okay.
So it's not hugely important in terms of what we're doing here today, but it does make our code look a little bit cleaner and whatnot. So I'm happy with that. And then you can actually do even what we have to do on a single line, which we might refactor this a little bit afterwards and do it. We'll see what we have here. So with each of these items, so now when you look at item, if you were to just let's console log each item.
Console log item.
Yeah, that's the variable we have access to there. Okay, you save that now, and then let's see what that looks like once you add some to-dos in there. Okay, so you saw what happened there at the top. So that one there, that one's being console logged from the end of your script. Okay, But that one up there where it says eat, just says eat, that's coming from console log.item. So let's put another item in and see what happens. Eat, sleep, eat, drink, sleep, work, play.
It always logs this.
Yeah, it keeps logging it, and then you can see eat, drink. So we just need to basically, I mean, with those individual items where it says item, we see it just pulls out that specific, what's in that index of the array, right? As it loops through what's in the array. And
wait a second.
Exactly.
So,
good work.
But why does 2 appeared here?
Because it's the same thing that was displayed twice, right? If you do it again, drink is going to show 2, and eat is going to show 3, or it's going to show everything all over again. Okay.
Or anytime, all the time I hit add button, it shows all the elements in the array or the items in the array.
Yep.
No.
Exactly. So this is where we can see what's coming through. So as an example, if we were to append an object to it, now with our dot notation, like if it's an object that's in that index of the array, with the dot notation, we can access those things. So we'll switch back to my browser just so I can show you, okay? Yeah. So I'll share in here. Okay, and I'll open up my thing here again. So let's, we'll say R equals, we'll initialize an empty array, and then we'll create, let obj1 equals, you know what, hold on, I gotta get tabbies here, just a moment, okay?
Yep.
Just a second.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, I'm coming, sweetie, I'm coming.
Hey, is everything all right?
Oh, these cheap pair of headphones. Just busted.
Is everything?
Yeah, everything's fine. Tabby was
okay.
Coming home from Salami there. She had to take all the ties. So, yeah, just bear with me a second. Hey, that still works. Okay, I'll resume the share now. Okay, cool. Now, so we can take an object here. I'll just put, let's do this. Tyson, and then we'll just say ID equals 1. Okay, let's obj2, same thing. We'll say name, Sal, and we'll say ID number 2. All right, now we'll do array dot push obj1, array dot push obj2. Okay, now we can go array. Okay, so that shows in there, but now I can do like, now let's go array dot for each. And then I'll just put item, my arrow notation here, and I'm just gonna go console.log or log because we're already in the console. But you see, I don't actually have to put brackets here because it's just one line. So you are seeing this, right? What I'm doing?
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Perfect. So what I'll do here is I'll do item dot name. Okay. So Tyson Sal, because that item is basically the object, right, that you've stored in there. So this becomes particularly powerful when we're dealing with objects, records from databases, things like that. So okay, go ahead. You can share your screen again.
Okay, here we are.
Awesome. And you can even nest them. Like if you had arrays stored within arrays, you could run for each loops within for each loops within for each loops in the system. So it becomes particularly powerful, which is great. So we need to do something with this item. What do we need to do with the item?
I need to show it here in this list.
Exactly. So what is that going to require?
I should get the value of this list, right? And
We need
set
to,
it
yeah.
and set it as equal to the item on the array. No?
No. What I would recommend is instead of trying to work with that particular item in there, we can recreate
A
this
list.
list over and over again. So
Okay.
you've referenced the item's parent with an ID. Do you remember what that was?
List. What's list?
Exactly. Perfect. So there's
okay.
Yeah. So there's two ways we can go about this.
Let me see if I can think of a way.
Sure.
So it's inside these function for each. Okay. We're inside the method of the to-do are.
We're in that particular loop of the for each loop. So
each time that we go through this loop, we want to add the list element.
that's right.
Okay.
But there's probably something we need to do beforehand, right?
I should do like that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So we want to reference it and outside of the for each.
So let create list. What do you think
Or
about
just
that?
yeah, let's just call it list. List should be
Okay.
This will be easier.
It's better.
Yeah, we'll know exactly what we're talking about.
List. So I get document element by ID and then list. What's list? Capital letter? No. List. Then okay, I think that's it. No, add element or no.
No, we'll leave it like that for list, and then
Okay.
and now we'll reference it list inside that actual for each loop.
So list dot.
There's probably something we want to do before then, though, because we have all those items in there. We want to get rid of them, right? So
What we
outside
have in
our
items right now, we don't.
well, it says
Okay.
in the list we have the list item object, the list item elements. We can do it that way, but every time we run through this, we're going to want to get rid of our list and then put the new items in there from the beginning, right?
Repeat again, please.
Yeah. So we'll leave those in for now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. And there's something we can do with list. You had mentioned it before. There's a property that we can access from that particular DOM element for list, but we want to do this outside the for each. We want to do this at the beginning of everything.
Here, right?
No. Because we want to leave the list, that list variable, we want to keep accessing that in different ways every time, right? Okay.
So I take list. You said I have to add a method to it, right?
Yeah, we're gonna change a property of it. So one of the properties you mentioned, like on the input, there's value. On an HTML element like a UL, what's another thing that we can reset to method?
Inner HTML.
Perfect. Yeah, that'll probably work.
Inner HTML.
Yeah.
Okay.
Equals.
Wait a second, Tyson. Wait. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
perfect.
I can hear you. Yeah.
So list inner HTML, and I should add le, right?
No. We just need to zero it out because we're going to use our for each loop to add those items, right?
So I should put it in a variable too.
Nope. No, do you see what we did with the item to do dot value? What did we do after we pushed the value to the array?
Empty.
Yeah, we made it empty. Exactly. Okay. Let's see if that worked for us.
Okay, so this removes all the list items.
Yeah, let's test it out. We have our browser right there, so let's see what happens. Yeah, add an item.
Okay. So when I add something, okay, there we go.
Beautiful. So now that list is gone. So now we just need to repopulate that list.
Okay. Now I understand. But wouldn't it be better if I deleted it all here, and each time I go through the loop, I create a new element?
So we've already deleted it using that inner HTML, and then the empty in parentheses, right? So
okay.
So we don't need to do anything now. Now we just need to repopulate it.
And in this case, I have to do that, right? List inner HTML and add the list element.
Okay, let's see how this works for us.
Plus item, no.
Yeah.
Plus, let me see if it works. So when I see hi, add hi. There you go.
Okay, now add another one. Let's see what happens when we add another one.
Okay, it's substituted. Okay, it deletes the previous.
So what do you think happened there? We're in a for each loop, and we're constantly setting inner HTML to a specific value. Do you see those? Okay. So let's step back a second here. In that string you created, so where it says equals, and then you put your li in there, and then you add a plus. What is that doing? What's the plus doing?
It's concatenating.
Exactly.
Appending or appending.
Yeah. So really what we should be doing is we should be concatenating
a break
to inner HTML every time. So there's a really easy way to do that. We can add another plus sign, but where? Where do you think we can add that plus sign?
So can you repeat again, please? What I have to do?
So we need to concatenate to inner HTML. So there's a couple ways that we can do this. We can do this within here. We could start a string outside, and we can keep appending to the string, and then set inner HTML to the value of that string. Or we can take the value of inner HTML and then add, like put that at the beginning, and then add this to it. Like
this, bro. Like this.
Yeah, that looks good. Here, 2 seconds. I gotta Tabby's home just a moment. Okay, hold on. Oh, the joy of kids. You got 3 kids. There's always one kid that's crying. Perfect.
It works.
That works beautifully, right?
Yeah.
Good. Now we need to delete this. We need to delete a specific item from there. How do you think we can do that?
Wait, I have to delete something from this list?
Well, let's say we want to remove something from the list. Yeah, what can we do? How can we get there?
Well, I should add a button close to the item, next to the items where it says remove.
Yeah, that's an option.
And I can actually add it here, no?
You could add it there. You won't want to add it at the end. You'll want to add it within the li tag. That's the biggest hint. Yeah. That's one of the hints I'll give you right now.
So, like, button. But can I add classes inside of it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's like an HTML element. Okay, so I can use this class.
Instead of block, yeah, but don't put block in there because block will want to take up the whole area. So just and even for this one, we don't necessarily have to put classes to it. Yeah, we'll put classes to it to make it pretty. But I'll give you some other class names in here. So
Okay.
so button equal, yeah. So class equals, because I mean it's something like this you can easily reference on the Bootstrap website. So I'll just give it to you. And now we run into another problem here with the parentheses that you've used, with the quotation, with the quotes that you've used.
Okay, I can.
We're technically
I think
escaping out of the
here.
string, and then yes, yeah, there you go.
Okay. So
or another example, get rid of those ones there, and then put
the backslash.
Yeah. No. And then, but then you can do your double quotes.
Okay. Oh, there you go.
Awesome. Okay. Now within there, you can write out your classes. So BTN.
BTN primary.
Let's do BTN danger. That'll give us a red class.
Okay.
And then on top of that, let's do a BTN-SM because that'll make it a smaller button instead of a large one. So, okay. Okay, so, and then you'll need to close out that button and you'll need to write something within the button tags. We don't have to do that with another,
Remove.
concatenation there. You can do it within the same parentheses or within the same quotations. No.
Oh, wait a second. Okay, here.
There you go. No. Oh, sorry. Yeah, my bad. You're right. I see what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Okay, let's see if that works for us.
Ooh. Okay.
It looks a little bit, yeah, it looks a little bit ugly. Let's add a left margin to that. So where your button and the classes are that you just add, put a ML-5.
Here, ML-5.
Yeah, so it's margin left 5. So that's the largest one they have in there. Yeah.
Okay.
It looks a little better for us.
Yeah, it is. It does.
Yeah,
okay.
So that's good. Yeah. Okay, awesome.
So if I add something else, I should add another button. Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it doesn't look that pretty, but that's okay. It's not a big deal.
Let's remove items. So
here's another option. Instead of putting button, get rid of all the button classes, and let's use a span tag. Yeah.
Okay.
No, not there. Instead of where it says button, you'll just put a span.
Okay.
Right,
without the classes?
We'll use classes still. The class we'll use is text-danger.
Wait a second.
Perfect. Okay, awesome.
Let's see how it looks.
Oh, and then you'll need to put, remove works there. Or you know what? In this case, let's just put an X. Instead of remove, we'll just write down X there. You probably make it an uppercase X as well. Okay.
Like this?
You know what? I'm going to get you to do one other thing. Let's do, we'll go class. turn those spans back into button tags, but we'll do something a little different. For the class itself, just put btn, but leave text danger in there. And we'll add, and then just btn. Okay, let's see what happens there. Okay, so the only purpose that really serves right now for me is just that you have the clicker on it. But there's another thing that we can do in here as well. I mean, we can do it inline. I don't have a problem doing things inline, especially when it's being generated dynamically with JavaScript. Let's get rid of button again. Sorry, let's get rid of the button. Yeah, let's get rid of button again and put span in there. Okay, now where it says just next to button, let's just put in there pointer. Okay, now let's go to the top of our document. We'll add some script, we'll add a style tag. We'll add some styles in here.
You put it here, right?
Just in the head.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should add the type? Or
you don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to.
I don't know.
Okay, and then let's
Pointer.
go dot pointer. Okay, and then cursor.
What happened over here?
It's okay. Just write down cursor in there. I think it's either cursor pointer or pointer cursor. I can't remember what the.
So sorry. Repeating again. Pointer.
Yeah,
then
so
we want to add what?
Cursor. And then pointer. Okay, perfect. Okay, now I'll refresh the page. Okay. Go ahead and add an item. Okay, there you go. So it's basically a span tag. We're not using a button or anything, but now it gives us the hand, right? The hand cursor.
Okay.
So now from a UI point of view, we know something's going to happen when we click on it. From our natural use of it. Now we need to do something with that item in there when it's clicked. We need to remove it from the array. So the way we'll do this is with a filter, which means basically the idea of the filter is we're going to look at everything that's in the array and we're going to keep everything that's not an item. So two things we should really do in this situation. One, let's see here. For each other. Okay, so let's turn this for each loop into a function of its own. So what should we name the function? Maybe add items.
Remove item.
Well, no, we're not going to remove items yet. We're gonna break up our functions in here. Okay. So we're going to call, from within this function, we're going to call another function, which is going to be to add the item, which is going to be basically to do array.forEach, all that in there, but that's going to be taken out to its own specific item, to its own specific function.
So inside of this, in this forEach?
No. What I'll do is go outside to basically to the main level of your script. I don't know. No, I don't touch it. Okay, so outside, so kind of on the same level where you declared to do R, and then the same level where you did document.getElement by ID button add. So we want to create a function. Not there, no, outside of that one. So I would go
outside. Okay, sorry. Here.
We can do it there, or yeah, that'll work.
Okay, so I'll call a function. I'll define a function. Add element.
Add items.
Item.
Yeah, let's add items plural. Okay. Instead of add item, Yeah, add item. That's fine. That's fine. Whatever we want to use there. So now what we're going to do is you're going to take where it says to do r.forEach. You're going to take that strip of code and put it in that function. Okay. Okay, perfect. Go back down and even where it says start, where it says let list equals to list.innerHTML equals, take all of that and let's put that before the for each loop is run. Okay, perfect. Okay, good. Okay, so that's good. So now instead of having all that code in our one function, now we've taken it and we've broken it out into several functions, right? To make
so here I should call back the function.
Yeah, exactly. Hey boys, can you go out, sweetie? It's not in here. It's probably behind the TV or yeah. Liam, go out, sweetie. I don't have it now.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. Does that work now? Does everything still work, or did we break anything?
Yeah, that's
still works. Okay, perfect. So that's great. Now what we're going to want to do. So basically, we've done everything that we have to do after we click the add button, right? We don't really. There's nothing that we need to do beyond this. That add button and the action it takes, it's reached its full cycle, right?
Sorry, can you repeat again?
So
it's reach. Okay, it reached my full cycle. Okay.
Yeah, like there's nothing else that we need to do with that add button. But
yeah,
what we do need to do is we need the ability now to, when that X is clicked, to delete it, right?
Okay, let me see if I can figure it out myself. So
sure,
I'll create again a function, and I'll call it remove item, and instead of this remove item, oh wait. I want something to happen when the X is clicked.
That's right.
So before declaring, defining the function, I should add an event listener to the X.
We can do that. Yeah, that's one option.
Okay.
But my recommendation is we run this function inline.
Okay.
So do you know how, like, on an actual element, within the script, within the element tag itself, we can put like, on click, on hover, on.
Yeah.
So you still need that function there. That's perfect. No, you still need that function because that's the function that you're going to call. Yeah. And we're probably going to need to know what item it is. So that would be a parameter.
And what item it is? It is a span, right?
Well,
no.
It's technically going to be text, right? That we push through. Okay. Okay.
So when I click on the text, which is
well, I mean, it'll be the X that we click on, but
yeah.
When you click on that X, we need something to happen.
But this X should have an ID.
Does it have to have an ID? If we're doing it in line on an element by element basis, what we can do is I'll make this easier here. Instead of doing that, just put in there on click. We're in the span tag, and you'll see how that works. Let me open up. I'm gonna share my screen to show you. Okay.
Yeah.
Show you what's going on here. Okay. Let me open up my thing in here. Okay. So I'll do click event.html. Generate an HTML document, and in here I'm just going to put let's say an H5. This is an element to click, And when it's clicked on now,
You call a function.
you
Okay.
can call a function. Yeah, and it's really, really easy. So I'll create a script tag down here, and then we'll say function, say clicked. And in this one, I will do, you'll see it automatically generates for me there. I probably don't actually have to put, I can't remember exactly how that, anyways. Okay, so say clicked.
Okay.
Now, let me see here. Yeah, I'll do Google Chrome, and I'll bring that down there. And then I'll open up my console, and then I'll click that. Oh, nothing's happening. Why is nothing happening? Let me go back
Because
here.
the function is not defined. You didn't say what to do with the function. Or the parentheses.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Nothing happens because I didn't actually give it something to do. Good catch. Okay. All right. I'll refresh this. Okay. Right. Now let's say let's add something else in here. So I'm going to just put message. Okay. Console log message. And in here, I'm just going to say hello, but I can do two other ones in here, right? Like I could say, goodbye and so long for now. Okay, now I come in here. That's already refreshed. Hello, goodbye, so long for now. See how that all worked?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's in your case, let's try to let's see what you can figure out with this.
Okay. So we're here in the span item. And click. And click. I have to run the function remove item. Is that right?
Sort of.
Oh, I have to escape.
Yeah.
Characters. Okay.
And then like the mistake I made when I showed you is I didn't give it any kind of a message or anything, just to know that it actually works, right?
Yeah. Remove item.
Let's make sure that when we click it, something actually happens. Something can happen, that we've accessed what's inside the function.
Works. Okay.
Awesome.
Works.
That's beautiful. It's exactly, that's great. That's great.
Okay. So in this case, I have to get item, which is this list item. I can do it like that, right? I should make a variable like we did before. Oh no, what do you think?
Well, we need to, this function, because it's going to do something, it's going to remove a different element each time it's clicked. We need kind of a way to reference that particular item, that particular element. But in this case, I want you to step back. Right now, we're not thinking of the DOM. We're just thinking of the data, right? Because the DOM is updated from the data that we put in the array using our add item function, right? So to know if, so in order to know what item in the array it is, what do we need to do? I'll give you a hint.
Wait a second. Maybe I got it. Wait.
Okay.
If I do like that, to do R. No, wait. This to do R, and then no. Wait a second. To do R. Pop. This. Does that work?
What does pop do exactly?
It removes an item.
From where? How does it pop an item? What
From the
item? What
array.
item does it remove?
The last one.
That's right. Now, that's
Okay,
fine if all we do is
last
click on the last one, but we need a way to identify the one that we want to delete from the array.
is the one that has been clicked.
That's right, yeah. So the only way, like, for example, if I'm working with a database, the way I'm going to reference a record is probably with the ID that I assigned the record, or something that's going to be unique in the record. So it might even be somebody's email address or something. But that's how I identify the record. In an array, the only way we can identify
With the index.
item in the array, well, you have the index, which might work. I'm going to give you a different way because I want to show you how to use the filter function with the to-do array. So let's do this. Let's go back to my example, the share screen. I'll share my screen with you. Okay, so let me see here. I'm going to, how exactly do I want to do this? Okay, I'll make this really, really quick. So I'm going to call this particular container a my items container. Oops. I'll just call it items in there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'll create an array, and we'll say item 1, item 2, item 3. These are great challenges because you're really trying to think, okay, well, how do I get to the next step? How do I get to the next step, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to say, I'll take my item there. I'll say document, let's say I'll abstract this to a function. So we'll say function, which will mean clear items. Okay, and then I'm going to say, let's see here, container. I'm just doing this really quickly just to give you an idea. Okay, oops. Container equals document dot get element by ID. You could use query selector as well, but in this case, I'm just going to use that. And then I'll say container dot inner HTML equals this. So we've done all this already, so that's great. Now, actually, no, I don't need to do that there. I need to do that in here, okay, to clear the items. Now, this function handles just one thing, which is great in this case. So when somebody clicks something, I want to clear the items, clear everything that would have been put in the container, okay? So we'll call clear items. That's going to clear that. Now, when we add these, so immediately what I'll do here is I want to populate items. Okay, the items that are going to be in there come from this array. So I'm going to go array dot for each, and then we'll say element, and then in here I'm going to say container dot inner HTML plus equals to, because we want to append in here. We're going to use a little bit different syntax. This is a template syntax, so don't worry too much because you could do this with just the regular quotes in there as well. And I'm just going to say we'll say H3 because I want it to be a little bit sizable. H3, okay. Now oops, where's my $sign? Now what I want to do in here is put element in there. Okay. So what I want to do as soon as this page loads up is I want to run this function, and we're shortly going to get to the point of putting in those specific items. So I'm going to say document dot add event listener dot
Load.
This is like the vanilla JavaScript way of doing things. So, and once everything loads in the page, then I'm going to want it to run
the function.
Populate items, right, the first time. Okay. So let's see if this worked for us. So it worked for us. Okay, that's on the page. Item 1, item 2, item 3. Now, what I want to do is in here, I want to add a click event. But every time I click this event, I want to console log the element specifically to it. So I'm going to go click, and for now, I'm going to call this one remove item. Okay. And then in here, because this is technically a string for the element, that's going to go in there. I want to put that like so. Okay, now I need to put a function in here for remove item. And then I'm going to want to put, what is that item that I want to remove? Okay, so you see this here, remove item, and we're sending through a string with that same name, item 1, item 2, item 3. Does that make sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm just going to console log it so that I know I now have it, right? Okay. See how that works? So it's very dynamic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's running this through. Now, if I want to, let's say, for example, I want to do something else. I want to make sure that that item is actually in my array. So I'm going to console log true if it is in my array. So one thing I can do is I can do array.forEach again. Okay, and I'm going to say, I'll just call this, let's see here, I don't want any, I'll call this one element again. Okay, and I will say call it, if item equals element, then what I want to do is console log true, basically, or we'll just say yes in this case. Okay, so we should return a yes every single time, right? Except what happened here? Item. Now there's a little error in here because I don't know why it's running 3 times. Why is it running that remove item 3 times? You can tell it's running it 3 times here because it says yes, right?
Mm.
Okay, so this is a really silly mistake that I made. I basically, by putting equals in here, I basically assigned this item to equal element, and that's always going to return true. Okay, maybe you've made that mistake already. I don't know. We could do it 2 or 3, but let's see. Okay, so yes, of course, every time we run this, we are going to get an item that's in the array. Let's do something else. We'll add another item in here. I'm just going to do an H3 again, and we'll say item 4. This isn't generated from our array, but what I can do is on click equals remove item. Let me know if you're not following anything here. Okay, then in here,
not that much, but okay.
No problem. Now I'm going to put item 4. So this item 4 is not in our array, right? So this should not be returning yes. It shouldn't return anything. Okay, but we're still accessing the same function. So it's just console logging the actual item that I ran through there. Okay. Okay, so that doesn't return anything, but these ones do, because these ones are in the array. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So basically what I've done, as you can see in here, is I've taken my element from the array, array.forEach, okay? So one of these 3, So it's going to run through 3 times. It's going to create an H3 on there with an on-click remove item. And then within remove item, it's going to place a string, right, with element. Now these ones here, this is the same as doing
plus, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
But these ones are, I like this much better. This is what I do. So let's do it like this though. I'm going to,
but
you see how much cleaner that syntax is.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And then
I don't understand very much why you use item or element
why I use
parameters.
item. Well, the item or element doesn't really matter in terms of whatever name you use. What you have to understand is with this for each, what it does is it takes this item. Once it reaches this part of the array, it takes this item. And now this variable is assigned this value. Okay. On the next run through of the loop, it takes this and assigns it to this value.
It's like the I.
Exactly.
If I use okay, it's like
Exactly.
the I.
Exactly. Yeah. So the I
It's a counter. It's a
exactly. Yeah. In a for loop, now you have different abilities using a for loop versus using a using the for each loop. Like with a for loop, I can actually change that value in the array. With the for each, I can't change that value in the array, but I can do other things with that, like repopulate things, right? So that might not make a ton of sense right now, but what you need to know is this element is the same value as this on the first run. Then it's the same value as this on the second run, right? This on the third run. And then that's how we add all those things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, that's good. And as you practice, you'll see that's what happens. In some functions, and we don't want to get too complicated, but you know, an array might return a number of things. You know, I might be able to, like, let's say I run this probably gets way too complicated, but let's say I take all of the properties using the classes and methods available to me in JavaScript of an object, and I want to run through the properties by key and then the value. Then this would look different, okay, in there. But for this one, for an array, very simple. It's going to let you work with that item of the array. So that element is that particular item on whatever loop it is in that array. So this is why it takes practice as you're going through trying to build stuff like this, right? The more of these things you try to build, the more it'll make sense. Now you know to go back, like you know, I don't understand. You know, now look up, you know, do some research on the for each loop of an array, right? And then just read the documentation until you get a grasp of it. But now you kind of know. Now you know what you don't understand, right? So that's the beauty of building projects out all the time. Is you know, it's almost as important to know what you don't know, right? Like to know that you don't know things, but to know what you don't know, if that makes sense. So you know, it basically, you know where your knowledge is lacking, what you need to do some more research on. So that's why this stuff is very good, very powerful. So now the point of this is basically I've taken this element, I've put it on there, I've run my on click function, okay, from within that particular element, you know, any one of those, and I have and then I've done something with this, okay. So this that's coming through here is the item up here. Does that make sense? So this,
yeah, because it okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So now I can do something with this, right? That's coming through on here. So let's go back to your screen.
Okay.
And this is kind of like the last item in, you know, in our application here is the ability to delete.
Okay, so I already added the on click, remove item, and I have to write, let me see, item, right?
Yeah, that's
Inside
you're on
this
the right track.
element. Oh, sorry, item.
But
Okay.
yeah, I think you know what you need to do where it says item, because right now item is nothing. You'll get an error up in your span tags.
I should add this as a string.
Yeah, and then what you should do, yeah, and then what we need to do, because item is technically a variable in this long string. The on each pass of the for each loop, item changes. But if you write it in like this, now everyone that you click on is going to show item in the console log. Okay, you're on the right track for sure. We need to do something else besides those single quotes.
Okay, wait a
To the
second.
left, yeah, to the left of the single quotes, you need to put something else in there. And it's just because of the structure of our string. No.
Wait. I'm getting confused.
No worries, no worries. How do we escape from the string? Essentially, how do we get out of the string?
Like this.
So that we can append those items.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to go back to the beginning of your string here, right where it says the inner HTML.
Wait. Appending?
Yeah. So how did we initialize our string?
Like this?
Okay, yeah. But how did we initialize that it is actually a string?
With the quotes?
With the double quotes. So if we want to get out of the string and add something dynamically, we would have to put double quotes and then the plus signs.
There you go.
Okay, good. Now, one other thing we do need to add, this stuff gets a little bit confusing, but you do need to add a single quote within the string portion. So not the plus side, but the other side. No.
So you say I have to have a single quote. Where?
Left, in this case, left of the double quotes and then right of the double quotes. Yeah, just one. Perfect. Okay, and now if you go to the right there, no.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Understand.
Now if you go to the, yeah, perfect. Okay, just one. Awesome. Okay, now, so what's going to happen is when it reads it, that's going to get read in as a string within the function itself. So because we put a quote in there, and even though we've added item in there dynamically, the parameter will come through as a string variable, not an integer, not a double, not not an array, not anything else that way. So what we can do is we can check that all that stuff is coming through.
That's what you mean, right?
Yeah, instead of writing removed, let's make sure that every time we click on an element, that string is coming through. The correct string is coming through.
So I should click item plus.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Let's see. Chow is clicked. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, so you know that item now is coming through. So that's good. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll switch over to my screen here one more time. And I'm just going to show you a little briefly how filter works. Okay.
Yeah.
Now there's a great resource here. I'm sure you've been to it before, W3 Schools. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's a filter method. So just like we use the for each method on the array, we can use filter. Now what filter is going to do is it's going to, again, when we type in, let's see, where is that? Okay, so right here we can see it's being used. So the array is ages, all right? And filter is the method we're using on that particular array. And what it's doing is it's making a reference to this particular function, okay? Now, we don't have to put age in here because that parameter is automatically appended to this. So what we want to do is, if something, we want to test a conditional of something, right? So for example, that item you just passed through, we want to basically remove it from the list or not return it if that item is equal to the item that is now in that particular array. So in this case, I'll show you in my example here, I have item 1, item 2, item 3, remove item. What I want to do is, instead of array.forEach, I want to create kind of a new array. And then I want to set the old array equal to that. So in this case, let me create a new array. So we'll say new array equals, I'll take array.filter, and I'm just going to use a callback in here to make this all work. Okay, so this is just the function that's going to run inside of it, and it's going to return true or false. So we can do this a couple of ways. I could write an if statement, and I could say if element is equal to item, then I want to return true, right? But there's something in here right now. This already returns true. That's how it knows to continue with this block of code. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't actually have to write true in here. I just want something to, whether it's
happen
true or
if
false.
it is not true. If it is not true.
Exactly. Or I want, in this case, I want something to happen if it is, that's right. I want it to return false if it's not true. So I would do.
But you could add.
Hmm?
Okay, you could add the exclamation mark, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So in this situation, I would say, if item is not equal to element, then what the filter method automatically does is it says, okay, so this particular item in this run of the loop is not equal to this one. So because that statement returns as being true, it's a truthy statement, we want this particular item to now be in the array of this particular item. So filters gets into higher order. It's okay. I'll explain it again. And then you'll do it, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to console log new array. Okay. Okay. So what you'll see happen here is I'll click on item 1 in here, and if item 1 is not equal to the item that I passed through from here, it's going to be a part of this new array. So at the end of this, because I'm only clicking on one item to remove it or to not show up in the new array, because I'm only clicking one, I should have only 2 items left in that array, right? That's my goal. I don't want to have all 3 items because I want to remove an item, right? And if your array had 2 items in it and you wanted to remove 1 item, then the new array should only have 1 item in it, okay? So let's go back to the example here, okay? Let me get rid of this number 4. We don't need that one, okay? But we have item 1, so let's get rid of item 2. Okay, now look at the new array. Does that make sense? If I click item 3, it's going to return a new array without item 3 in it. Okay, we only have item 1, item 2. If I click that one, item 1, we're only left with item 2, item 3. Okay, every time I click this on item 1, you know, it's saying remove this item, remove that item, item 1, okay, on that particular iteration. So this here, because this statement proves true because item is not equal to element, then it will show up in the new array. Now let's do something else in here. I'm going to, and we'll see if we can pull it together as you try to work your way through it.
Well, it sounds very complicated. I got lost.
No worries.
But it's all right.
We'll keep practicing this because this this is kind of the next level. The ability to remove items, add items, edit items would be the third thing to do in here. I mean, then you have, the complete CRUD functionality. And that's basically all it is, all your web applications are just, you're manipulating data to either create it, remove it, update it, or delete it. Once you have that down, you're at another level. So what I'm going to do here is now I'm going to take array and I'm going to make it equal to new array. Okay. And then I'm going to run the function populate items, which is then going to take what's left in this array and put those on the screen. So let's see what happens here. Okay. Okay, so you can see the new one, except I made a mistake. I make mistakes sometimes. Okay. I'm gonna run clear items first, which is gonna get rid of everything that's on the screen, right? Okay. See how that works? Now it's an empty array. Okay. I'll review this one more time, and then we'll try this on yours in particular. So, high-level overview. We have an array. We've already pre-populated it. So that's the difference between this one and your program, because you populate it dynamically. Then what we do is we run through that array through 0 index to the second index, and we do something each time, which in this case is we add an element on the screen.
HTML.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now within that element, we're adding a particular function. This function is going to, if clicked, remove this particular element. Okay. And we can do something. What I'll do actually after is I'll show you the source I'll show you the source basically of our code, so that you can get an idea, how it all worked. Okay, so basically when somebody clicks on it, it's going to pass through this string, which is dynamic for each time, for each of those items that display on the screen. And then it's going to run through it and it's going to say, okay, so I want to create a new array to replace the old array, right? By going through and saying, what do I want to keep from this array? What do I want to get rid of? So you got to think filter is like working with for each. It's going to go through the array, right? It's going to loop through the array until, start to finish. It'll loop through the array. And then it'll do something with this. So all we're trying to do with filter, the difference is filter is designed so that this element gets pushed onto this new array if it passes this condition. Okay, so if it passes this condition, then element gets pushed.
Okay, wait a second. So here it means that it will push this item to the new array,
yeah,
if it is not the element that has been clicked.
Exactly. Perfect. You got it. That's exactly it. So that's all. So that's what the filter method does. Okay, very powerful. It's built in. We could write this out ourselves if we wanted to, but it's already there as part of, built into JavaScript. So it's like reinventing the wheel. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. So that's why that exists. Just like for each, we could run through it with a for statement and put array and then reference it with I, but it's already built in. So our code becomes shorter, it becomes cleaner, easier to work with. There's other things we can do, like there's a few other higher order functions that we can use that you will find as you learn them, you replace with, you replace that new higher order function that you understand now with what you would have used a for each loop for, right? So that's the idea here. So I'll just review this one last time. Array filter, so this runs through it on a loop like for each does. Okay, in this case, we're taking the element and we're doing something with the element. In this case, we're creating the DOM item. But with filter, all we're saying is we want you to add, so it basically returns a new array. We want you to add this element of this particular, whichever one it's looped through, wherever it is in the loop, to this new array if it passes this condition. Okay. And then we say array equals new array. So we're replacing what's in here, because now if I clicked on item 2, I don't want item 2 in there, and it won't show up in there. We're replacing that. So now we're saying basically array is now equal to this new array. So this means nothing anymore, right? These items in here, they mean nothing to us. They don't exist because we've taken all of those items, the ones we want to keep, we've pushed to new array. And so now array equals new array. And then we run through there like populate items from new array. Now we
then it starts again. The code begins again, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So so now your DOM is updated, has those new items to it. That's great. Or it removed an item that it didn't want from there. That's great. Now I can make this a little bit easier. Okay. And I can make array equal to array.filter. Okay. So that's basically bypassing this step, because this will run through the whole thing, and then whatever value it returns, this will now be equal to it.
Okay.
Okay. And we don't need to console log new array. We'll go back in here. Great. Okay. So let's give this a try on yours. So this is the last step that pulls it all together, right? And let me know. We can go back to this. We can go back to my example that I provided here. So, okay. You got this, buddy.
I don't know. Let me see.
You got this. You got this.
Okay. So here we are. And the function is remove item.
Mm-hmm.
And we're passing through the item, which is changed dynamically, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, you know what? Let me show you one other thing, Salvatore. One other thing. I'll share my screen here one more time. Okay. In here, I'm going to refresh this page. Now I'm going to look at elements. Oops. There. Okay. So these are all of my items that are in here. Okay. Do you see this here? These have been added dynamically using JavaScript. Item 1, item 2, item 3. And do you see how it shows in here as a string?
Remove item.
Yeah. So this here, on click, this is what our document looks like.
Yeah,
I got it.
document
looks like. And these were here. These were added dynamically with our JavaScript, right? In this particular one. So you can see this element every time it's run through the iteration. And maybe you have this down already, but it's it ran through it 3 times. Great. Item 1, item 2, item 3. That's what was in our array up here. Now you see dynamically it gets rid of it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So okay. So let's give it a go.
Let's try. Okay. Then in the function remove item, we're going to set the initial array, which was to do R. Okay.
Let's break it down. Yeah, let's break it down the way I did it initially, because every step of the way you want to see what happens, right?
Okay, so let new array and we're going to set it as to do R dot filter, and we're going to put this element, this item here. Perfect. Right?
Yeah, it's the item that's in the to-do array. Now here's the interesting thing with filter and the thing you put in there. Whatever variable you add there, I mean, you're not going to add item in there because item is the one you needs to remain constant, right? So if we put item in there, then item changes for the value as we run through the loop. No. Leave it up there as you had it before. Okay, and go back down to but like you could put anything in there for where it says filter. You could put ELEM or you could put dog. or you could put cat, kid, you could put,
Anything.
chocolate,
Okay.
and anything. But that's how you are going to reference that item in the array as it goes through the array.
Like a list element.
Sure. Yeah. Perfect.
We call it a list element.
Yeah.
List
And
element.
initially, as you're writing programs and maybe you don't understand fully what you're doing, use longer variable names like this so that you can better see and understand what it is. Like for example, as I build out functions, in a lot of the professional work I do, I might have a function that's got like four words as part of it, just all camel cased. Because when I look back on it, yes, it looks long, but now I know exactly what that function does. Yeah, what it means. And that's a more expressive way, in my opinion, to do it instead of making so many comments in your code. Right?
Yeah.
So and same with your variables that you write, your properties. It's we want to worry about, you don't worry about performance, you worry about how you will best understand it and how best one of your colleagues, if they ever have to go back to the code and change something you did, will understand it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So list element, and we want to. So we're going to add this list element to the new array only if
it passes your condition.
Why didn't you use the if statement, and instead use the return?
You can use if and then put return inside of it, but you don't need to because it's
like a ternary operator.
It's like you just don't need to do it because it's going to return true or false, and all it's looking for on that particular item is, does the function that's within this filter return true or does it return false? It's not looking for anything else.
Okay.
Right. So that's
the
why
the filter method does that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if list element is not equal to item, that's the condition, right?
Yeah. Let's see what
so
happens.
If list element, which is this one that it's been clicked, it's not equal to item, which is part of this array to do R,
Yeah.
it will be added to the new array. It's called new R.
Yeah, that sounds right. Let's see if that works for us. So let's test that out.
And it will be also removed from the HTML.
It will be removed from the HTML if
Apparently.
we run the add item function at the end. Because you have to remember, add item, all it does is it takes what's in the to-do array and then runs through it, right? But it clears out the values ahead of time. So let's console new array and just make sure we've got this right.
Okay, so
so add a bunch of them. Okay, now start clicking some of the ones in there. So you should see like, oops.
Okay, yeah. Let's see if I delete.
So if you click that one, yeah, D no longer shows up in there, right?
Okay.
But all the other ones do.
If I click S, okay. But still, they will be shown.
Still, they will be shown because we haven't updated our DOM. And that's what the add item function does. It updates the DOM based upon what's in our array. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe. Because you have to remember, it's like your DOM and how you handle data, especially as you grow as a JavaScript developer and you get into working with frames like React, Vue, and Angular, you realize that the DOM updates based upon the data. Okay, so really the only thing we care about, we're not looking at, well, how do I get this item off of my screen? Well, the item on your screen is there because you've updated it from a piece of data that you have, you know, in your script.
Okay, it's already there, but
It's
then
there, yeah. So like right here, you know, the data, once you click that X, you know, the data isn't in the new array.
but you haven't updated the DOM.
But you haven't updated the DOM. So running the add item updates the DOM based upon what's in the array. Now, if you add item in this situation, it's not going to do anything because, why is that? At this point, it's not going to do anything.
At this point, because I haven't added anything. Well, I haven't even.
Instead of saying add item, well, I don't want to really change it here, but add item probably would be better to say populate items. But we're not going to change that because add item. But yeah, you know what? Go ahead and change that. Populate items. Items. Yeah, try to make it plural because we're taking everything. So add an S on the end of items.
That's it.
Yeah, here, do this. Click Control F. Okay, now in find, I want you to type in populate, capital item. Okay. Now where the arrow is, to the left of it, click on it. Just to the left of populate item. No. It's in that little box. Yeah. Okay, now replace that with populate items. Okay, and then click over where it says, you see C, but then you see A, B. Click the one on the right, and that'll replace all of them.
Replace all. Replace all, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you're dealing with a long page, you know, maybe you've got 500, 600, 700 lines of code and you just change a variable name everywhere, then that's how you'll do it. Okay. So that's how you'll represent. And then you can close that box. There's an X in the top right of the box. Yeah. Okay. So that's going to update our items, but we're still missing something in remove item.
Wait a second. Let's see. Okay, still doesn't update the DOM.
Yeah. It doesn't update the DOM because what is the DOM updating based on? Which array is it looking at?
To-do R.
Yeah, exactly. It's looking at the to-do array. Now let's go back down to remove item. Have we actually updated to-do array? Have we updated it to the new values?
No. Well, let's do like that. It's simpler.
Yeah, it's cleaner, simpler, you know. And then you'll want to delete console.log new R.
Okay.
Because that variable technically doesn't exist.
Now it should work.
Yeah, let's give it a go.
Let's see. There you go. It works.
Beautiful. Now what's going to happen is tonight you're going to be thinking about this, and and then it's going to click, and you're going to be like, "Whoa, okay, oh, that all makes sense now." So the for each loop runs through what's in that array. Okay, now the filter method, it just basically returns the new array based upon the conditions I've set. Like like tonight, honestly, it'll click with you and you'll be like, well, I want to try this and I want to try that. And you know what I mean? So does that make sense?
It makes a little bit of sense, but I don't know if I'll be able to manipulate that or to create something else.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It'll click though. It will click, Salvatore. Believe me, you'll step back and you'll be like, yeah, all of a sudden your brain will just put it together.
Okay. I understood the way it works.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'll be able to use it in a different context.
Well, what about you know, I mean, you could do it replacing people's you know, contact information. What's another example of something you could build with that? I mean, there's lots of things you can build with, you know, just knowing how to use those loops.
But the main point is that I have to understand how to manipulate data inside an array. So like adding, removing, updating, which is changing the content of some array elements, items, and then deleting. And these can all be done with pop and shift, or
Yeah.
push. And
In this
that's it.
case, yeah. In this case, you know,
But
to add onto your array, you use pop, or to push, you'll use push to add onto the array.
but
But you'll
to
find
remove, okay.
you'll find that you'll just be creating a new array, right? This would work different if you're working with a database, because the database needs to remove it. So, you know, you'll be connecting through the API that the database provides you. But you don't have to worry about, besides, you know, delete based on this item, but delete based upon the string that you give the MySQL query. You don't have to worry about anything besides that string. So, but essentially it's doing similar things in there, right? Like it might just be restructuring restructuring the array. Basically, we're just restructuring the array and then displaying the data based on it. Yeah, but you'll find, like, you know, even updating, you know, you can use one of the higher order functions you can use is map to update that particular the value of that particular item in the array.
I didn't understand the last part of your talk.
Dot map. So like you have
No. I
.4h,
mean the part of the database. I didn't understand.
Oh, don't worry about the database. That's probably at this point you don't need to worry about the database. But a database doesn't work. It's not too dissimilar, right? It's just, you know, when you're dealing with live data, you're pushing things through. You'll find that once you understand the basic ideas of looping through arrays, working with objects a little bit, you know, or working with objects that are in arrays, things like that. Like what one or two other high order level functions as part of the, you know, array object, you will, once you learn those, like there's not much that you use beyond that. Like you were asking me the other day, like what percentage do you know of the language? I don't know. I really don't know a ton about the language. I don't imagine. I mean, there's certain things that you learn and that you get to know about the language that are, you know, in reference to other languages you've learned that are different. Like for me, the biggest ones would be, say, JavaScript and PHP. You know, like I know that I can't, you know, that things behave differently. Like, you know, I heard for early on, oh, well, everything in JavaScript is an object. But I really didn't understand the full import of what that meant until I started trying to play around with it and understand, you know, just to try to understand the differences with how all this works. Like, for example, in PHP, if I want to push something onto an array, it's not a method that's available to the string or to the array. It's a function I have to use that then adds to that array. So it's just different. But I mean, yeah, as you go and you continue to learn more, you'll realize there's lots that you don't know, but you don't need to know a ton. It's, you know, like the 80-20 rule says that, you know, 20% of what you know will account for 80% of your results, right? And so, you know, almost every day, you know, I'm on Google and I'm looking up, well, how do I do this, or how do I do that, or what's the solution for this or that? It depends how much you push yourself, right? If you keep to simple things, then you're not looking on Google very often, but you don't need to know much if you're just doing simple things. But as you push yourself and you need to understand more and more, you know, and then with repetition, that knowledge starts to stick with you. But still, there's so much to learn. And then you realize at some point that, okay, I understand a lot of these basic functions and methods and you know, the intricacies of JavaScript. But then you'll find that the other challenge is, how do I organize my code? Then it's like the methodology. It's not the specific things that you know. It's how you approach the problem and solving the problem. And that comes later on, right? Like, you know, now I'm not the same programmer now that I was a year ago. Like, you know, now, yeah, I mean, I know, essentially I know the same information, like, you know, how the methods work on you know, a string object or an array or whatever in JavaScript. You know, but now it's how do I organize my code? How do I break it out? how do I make these things a little more efficient? So it's more the methodology of how you approach things. How do I organize it so that my colleagues will very easily be able to look at my code and fix a bug that shows up or change something that a client requests. So, but honestly, I remember like one of the things that I had built was a flashcard application early on, and that was when I was teaching English to kids. And so I said, okay, well, I'll do something that attaches a picture of an animal and the letter itself, and and then you cycle through it like a slideshow kind of thing. But it's like I was so excited to build that because I had just something clicked, and it was like, well, that's how I would solve this problem. And then it's like your subconscious goes to work and figures these things out, right? But honestly, you'll go away tonight or tomorrow, or you'll go back to your tutorials, and you'll be like, oh wow, well that makes sense now because I did this here in a practical situation, and that's why that works a particular way, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, no
Thank
problem.
you a lot, bro. Thank you a lot. Appreciated the time, a lot of time you spent with me. Thank you. It was precious.
Yeah, no
I
worries.
hope that later on I'll understand, I'll complete the puzzle.
You will, and
understand the complete picture.
Yeah. And you have to remember, there's like, you're not a beginner. There's things you understood, like we talked about arrays. You understood the basics of arrays. In fact, you already knew that the method to add to an array was .push in JavaScript, right? So your knowledge is growing. That's great, but it's you'll be amazed at the progress when you look back a year from now and see what you know then compared to what you know now. And and like I said, things at certain times they just start to click. They just start to click.
When you have enough information to link them all.
When you've made enough mistakes and when you've had to solve enough of your own problems. So, you might not think at this point, this is what keeps people in what they call tutorial hell. So it's not a nice thing to say.
The what?
Tutorial hell. Tutorial hell. Okay. So it's not a very nice phrase. But the point is, people just keep doing tutorials because they don't feel they understand enough to create applications. But the way you get out of tutorial hell is come up with an idea that you think is basic enough for you to figure out. And when you run into a problem, Google the problem. When you run into a problem, ask me, send me a message, with your code. And then you will, but then that's when you'll really notice your learning going from one level to the next. Right now, one of the things I'm working on is understanding better progressive web applications and working with indexed DB. And so that's kind of one of the next levels for me in the services I can provide to my clients, right? But you're constantly learning, and there's no end to it, which is kind of the exciting part of it, because if you don't want this this particular thing that you're doing, this particular field, to get stagnant, there's always something that you can learn to keep things interesting. So
thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you a lot, bro.
No
Appreciate
problem.
it.
Okay.
Say hi to your family. Warm hug. Ciao. Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao.